So thank you everyone for joining today. So this is our second get-together session with the Migraine Body community. Our first session was in June this year to celebrate the Migraine Awareness Month. We had a great feedback from you guys and decided to go for this second session and far more experience sharing, help and inspiration for more of us. Our ultimate goal, obviously, is to all have more migraine-free days. So today we have 3 speakers. We have Mallory from Pennsylvania. We have Kat from British Columbia. We have Narelle from Colorado. And at the moment, we have 2 members of the Migraine Body team. So Luke, our marketing guy, who will be our moderator today. He's based in Singapore. And I will be animating the discussion with our panelists. I'm Christophe. You may have chatted with me if you're an MB Plus subscriber. I'm the MB Plus coach. And today I'm based in Normandy in France. And maybe Francois, our CEO and founder of Migraine Body, will be able to join us a bit later to talk about the research we do in reliefs in the app. So maybe we can start with a round of introduction. Mallory, please tell us about you, your experience with migraine, how it's impacted you.
Hi, I'm Mallory, and oh gosh, I don't know why my camera's being weird. I've been trying to fix it, but I am 16 years old, and I've been struggling with migraines ever since, like, I'd say 3rd grade. And ever since then, like, stress was always a big trigger for me. And now light and heat is definitely a big trigger for me. And I have, like, tension every day. And sometimes they turn into migraines. Yeah, I tried literally everything, like different medicines, stuff that the neurologist suggested, and nothing really worked. Right now I'm trying acupuncture and physical therapy to help with my neck. Like, they think how it shoots up through here. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's different.
Okay, maybe we can come more to the details just in a few minutes. Let's start with a round of introduction with the
sorry
with the other panelists. No worries, no worries. So Kat, maybe a few words of introduction.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to Melbourne, apparently. I'm Kat. I'm from Britain, but I've lived in Vancouver in Canada for the last 12 years. I work in Electronic Arts, the gaming company. I used to work in film. And I first started getting migraines approximately 10 years ago while working in film, which is difficult because we have to be looking at screens all day, every day, which I'm sure many of you on the call also have to do. And I have had some success, which I'll share with you all in a bit, but have accepted that it's a part of my life. And so now my goal is to manage it so that I can still do all the things I want to do and alleviate some of the stress that comes with being a migraine sufferer. I'll share more about that in a bit. Thanks, Christophe.
Thanks, Kat. So Narelle, tell us a bit about you.
Oh, hi. I'm so sorry if my sound is terrible. Is it still bad?
Yeah, it's not so good.
Oh gosh. Okay, just mute me and stop me if you need to. I'm in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, so hence the really bad reception, and we're having monsoonal weathers here. I'm originally from Australia, lived in London a long time, came to California to do film in ages ago. I can't remember. I've had migraine since I was 7, and I'm always really happy to talk about migraines and sharing my experience because, like Kat, I've been in film and intense industries and had to survive, and yeah, now I love speaking about, well, I don't love having migraines, but I love sharing my experience because I just think that more of us are having migraines, and some of us don't even know what to call it, and a lot of us don't know how to sort of get through the day, and even I don't. So it's good to all talk. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Narelle. Maybe you can mute your mic, and we'll switch back to, or maybe a few words from me. So I've been in the Migrant Body team for, hey, more than 5 years. And I'm lucky enough to very seldom suffer from migraine. So as I said, I'm the MB Plus coach, and I also appeared in a few migraine prevention videos and webinars about food, weather, lifestyle. So maybe you've seen me before. Anyway, let's come back to you, Mallory, and maybe you can tell us about your release journey and the hurdles you may have come through, and what you had rather had known before. And yeah, for a start.
Okay, well, I guess you already heard quite a bit. So yeah, I'm on the computer a lot because I do online school, so that's also a big trigger for me. So I have, like, in my glasses, because I have bad eyesight, it's like blue light blocking, and it's hard to tell if it helps, but I definitely think that it helps if you're on that all the time. I know Kat and Narelle are on the with film and stuff, so I know that, like, can help. But yeah, acupuncture is definitely different, and I've heard with other people that it helps too. But physical therapy, I feel like, is better than chiropractic, because personally for me, but I guess it's all different. Yeah.
I'm mute. Thank you. Thanks, Mallory. We know that we all experience the condition and symptoms differently. Anyway, what do you think are the most and least effective lifestyle and medication choices you've made so far? And have you found a relief strategy balance that works for you?
I still haven't found a great balance yet, but when, like, I've tried propanol and different stuff like that, and that never worked whenever I was a kid. Like, well, I'm still a kid, but whenever I was, like, really in elementary school, and it just, different things, kind of these bad side effects. I first, like, school stress therapy definitely was a big factor for me. I feel like that's a really effective one, just to be able to, like, let all, like, the school stress out and be able to talk about it. It can take less stress off, and I feel like if I didn't do that, I'd have even more headaches. Yeah, I feel like going to the neurologist was definitely an effective thing as well, because, you know, just being able to get different suggestions, and I know that they've gone into that practice for a reason, and so that, I feel like that's an effective thing as well. Or, like, hot rags. It sounds weird, but that's always helped. Not long term, but yeah.
Okay. if there was one thing that you, what is the kind of information you wish you had earlier, and what is the piece of information you think should be shared widely to help us as a community cope with migraine?
Honestly, I wish that I knew that it could be more like normalized, because like being like in elementary school and a kid, like a young kid, and not really knowing about it, and people just like thinking that different things, like when I was always in the nurse's office, I wish it was more like normalized, I guess, and I like knew that it's okay and that there's like ways that it can help. And because I never knew that, I just wanted to like give up because it's so hard, and there's still some days that are like really hard, and I'm sure you all know that. But yeah, I just wish I knew that it was okay to not be okay, and find better ways to deal with it.
Have you felt alienated in your community or at school with the condition or the symptoms?
In a way, there wasn't as many people in my like little class that like suffered from those, but then once I got into like the middle school, and that was even like there's more people that like definitely can have a bunch of different things. And but then that was also like a hard time for me as well, so that didn't help, and that's why I do online school now. But yeah, I feel like definitely yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for sharing, Mallory. To everyone here, do not hesitate to ask questions so that we can answer them during our Q&A session in a few minutes. You may also want to hit the raise hand button that you can ask directly your questions to the panelists. Maybe we can switch to Kat. So Kat, tell us about your own quest for reliefs, and maybe what you wish you knew earlier.
Sure. So it's interesting hearing from Mallory and seeing some of the people in the chat. It takes a while to realize that what you're experiencing are migraines, and that's so widespread. And I agree, I can't remember who said it, but someone said, you know, I wish we knew it was normal earlier. And that was my experience. When I first started getting migraines, I was working in visual effects and film, which is deliberately in a dimly lit studio because everyone's looking at screens of movie shots all day. And so you're trying to see all the detail. I can see Narelle's like smiling because you work in film as well. So when I first started getting migraines, I get migraine with aura. So I tend to get either a blind spot or like a weird black wiggly line. And it can start off really, really small. So I'll do that thing. You know, when you look at a bright light and then you look away and you've got like a bright light spot in your eye. I would be like, now, did I just look at a bright light or is this a migraine? So I would close my eyes and sort of see if it went away. And it didn't. And so when I first started getting these, I'd get the aura for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then it would go away and I'd feel completely fine. And then 15 minutes later, the pain would hit. And mine, the ones that I used to refer to as migraines were so acute and still are, that they put me in bed, no light. I have to listen to either a podcast or an audio book really, really quietly just to distract me from the pain. But not so much that it keeps me awake. And I usually have a black sock I've now sprung for an eye mask, a weighted one, which I'm hoping will actually feel really good. But yeah, so black sock or eye mask across the eye, a cold flannel, or I've sometimes got like ice in a Ziploc wrapped in a tea towel that I'm carefully pressing all over my head until I can eventually fall asleep. And then usually after anywhere between an hour and 6 hours, I can walk again, which is exciting. But when this first started happening, I wasn't sure. I didn't know much about migraines. My experience with migraines were people sitting at their desk going, oh, I've got such a migraine. And I'm like, really? Because your eyes are open and you're sitting upright and you don't see nauseous at all, which is not my experience of migraines. So it took a while. I went and got my eyes tested and I did need glasses for the first time. So I figured that was it. And then every time I'd get like a new spate of migraines, I'd go back and get my eyes retested. I was also doing incredibly long hours, which Narelle probably knows because it's film. So it's doing, 100-hour weeks and sort of having like Zoom calls with clients at 1 a.m. and then going, oh, now we're done. The UK office is awake. Let's talk to them. And it was probably the most stressful job I've ever been in, which I have to say, I imagine contributed quite a lot to the migraines. Since then, I eventually got to the point where they were getting so bad. I had a really, really awful one a couple of years ago where I was in the middle of a meeting with my team. So all of my peers and the people I work closely with, happily, it was a very safe environment on Zoom. And I suddenly found that I couldn't get out a sentence and I couldn't formulate the words to say what I was trying to say, but I didn't know what was going on. And I tried again and it wouldn't happen. And I immediately thought I was having a stroke and was obviously a bit terrified. And so managed somehow to get out enough words to my team to say, I have to drop. And I'm not alone. My fiance was home at the same time and managed to run into the living room and just all I could say was sentence. I was trying to say, I cannot get out a sentence. And all that came out was the word sentence repeatedly. And he obviously freaked out. So we called an ambulance but in between him meeting them at the front of our building and walking to our living room, they said to him, the paramedics, does she get migraines? And he said, yes. And they were like, don't worry, it might be a migraine. And it was an aphasic migraine, which is where you can lose the ability to speak. And by the time the paramedics had arrived, I'd lost the ability to comprehend. So I was having to ask them to repeat several times. And I was incredibly relieved when on the way to the hospital, I suddenly got the blind spot. And I was like, oh, I've never been happier to get a migraine. But then it was the worst migraine of my life when I got to experience it, sitting upright in one of those rickety wheelchairs in the ER in a very busy hospital, feeling absolutely awful, and had brain scans and everything just to make sure everything was fine. And it was just a migraine. But it's that phrase, just a migraine, that really sort of taught me that migraines, they're underestimated. So yeah, I've got experience with them. I do a lot of presenting and speaking and facilitating as part of my job. And when I had the first aphasic migraine, it made me reassess whether I felt I could continue in the career that I'd been building. And I was picturing being on stage, giving a presentation or a talk and having an aphasic migraine, and how I would handle that and how I would have slides ready to say, and maybe even do a talk about that and say, this happens occasionally, and this is what to do. And I thought about having a card with me that explains it. And so just trying to wrap my head around wanting to do the things I want to do, but being affected by migraine, and how to manage that has been quite an interesting challenge. And so having worked with a neurologist now for the last couple of years, same as Mallory, I tried propranolol, it didn't do anything for me. I've been on Candesartan for several years and it didn't seem to help. So I've just come off Candesartan and I've been taking Emgality, which is one of the monthly injectables. I haven't tried Botox yet. I have friends who've said it's made a really big difference. I'm trying to leave that as a last resort, but the Emgality seems to have brought down my days. I was actually looking at my the Midas test I did right at the beginning of talking to a neurologist, and I was having 20 days a month affected by migraine, and I'm now down to 6. I actually have one right now. It is hiding behind this eye and it has been lurking there for a few days. And so I'll tell you a bit what I do for just everyday migraine management. I drink at least this amount of water or squash, if you've ever lived in the UK, you know what squash is, a day. So I try and stay hydrated. You'll see me drinking all the way through these meetings. And I make sure I try and get as much sleep as possible. I'm in a very privileged position with my job that I can have conversations with my team and my colleagues and my manager about what is an acceptable time for me to be meeting in the morning regularly. I made an exception for this because I really care about helping people understand that you're part of a huge community. But generally, I try not to get up very early. My body just doesn't do well with that. The only things I get up early for are snowboarding, holidays, and then occasional meetings. So the hydration, sleep. I see an osteopath, and it's a very strange sensation, but does seem to be helping. Mallory, your comments about your tension and so on. One of the things that's helped me is making sure that I have good ergonomics set up if I'm spending a lot of time at a desk. I've got risers to make sure my screen is the right height. I've got a chair specifically for me. So I do a lot of things around just making sure I'm hydrated, well rested, and I'm not doing this a lot. I'm also doing a master's. So when I'm reading, I have now a prop. So I read up here instead of reading down there. And trying to not judge myself for having to battle with this. I think the stress that I experienced when I was first getting migraines, I made some big decisions about my life to change how I was making decisions so that I could live with less stress. Which meant making some sacrifices, but prioritizing my health and my well-being. And then giving myself a pass and explaining to the people in my life, there are some times when I just can't do something. And when I was in my mid-20s, going out and drinking a lot was a much bigger part of my life. And I had to get to a point where I was saying, I can't do that regularly. I can only do that can only have a couple of glasses of wine, 1, maybe 2 nights in a row. I can't do it every night. I definitely can't do it more than 3 in a week. That's just silliness, which for some people might sound like a lot, but if you're Australian or British, it's not that much. But yeah, so reducing the days from 20 to 6 is a win for me. So yeah, that's my story. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's definitely impressive. And it's also great that you take on you not to judge yourself. And remember, everyone, we're talking of a very debilitating disease here. The World Health Organization classifies it as one of the most debilitating diseases in the world, together with quadriplegia or terminal cancer or extreme depression when it comes to severe migraine. So do not underestimate it. This is a very, very serious condition. And although it's not life-threatening, do not underestimate it and do not blame yourself for suffering from migraine. Definitely, this is very important to know. Thank you very much, Kat, to remind us all about this. If there was something you wish you had known when you started your journey, your migraine journey, what would it be? And beyond this, what kind of message should be widely spread among us so that we can help each other better?
I wish, actually, one of the things that really stood out to me when I went to my neurologist for the first time, I've been getting prescribed various things through my family doctor or my GP. But when I went to a neurologist, I described all the different types of pain I was experiencing. And I think someone asked if I ever get migraine without pain. I don't. One of my friends who I work with does. I didn't realize that was a thing. I mean, I've only been dealing with this for 10 years compared to Mallory and Narelle have been dealing with this for a lot longer. I'm sure many of you as well. But it's 10 years in, and it's somebody I'm quite involved in my own care. And I didn't realize that you can get migraines without pain. And so I think one of the things that I wish I knew earlier was how many different versions of migraines there are. And one of the things that my neurologist said to me when I said, oh, I never used to, I remember saying to my fiance the other day, there was a time when I didn't used to get headaches. I remember saying, I don't really get headaches, so I don't really take painkillers. When I was younger, when I was very young, I had a lot of health issues, which I'm wondering if it's all connected. But when I was much younger, I tried to not take painkillers unless I had to. And I remember saying, I don't get a lot of headaches, which fast forward to the last 10 years, there's been months where I've had a headache basically every day. And when I described it to my neurologist, he was like, yep, that's a migraine. I was like, really? He's like, where is it? And I'm like, on one side. Sometimes it feels like it's moving. Sometimes it feels like sinus pressure. He's like, yep, it's a migraine. And I used to get a couple of sinus infections, maybe a couple of years actually before I started to get migraine. And so I thought anytime I had sinus pressure, that was just sinus stuff. And he was like, no, that's a migraine as well. And so when I realized how many versions of migraine I was experiencing, in addition to the ones where it's unequivocally a migraine because you're laying in bed, unable to move, feeling like you need to throw up, it's all migraine. So recognizing those as migraine as well helped me get my head more around the prodrome phase, which I only learned through Migraine Buddy. So thanks, guys. And I'm now sort of much more sensitive about, oh, this, I need to be really careful because this feels like this might lead to a migraine. So education would have been really helpful. The other thing I do want to do a shout out for, actually, one of the things that's always helped me, and it might be a placebo, but even if it is, if it's helping, keep doing it. Netti pots, which if you've never heard of them, they're like, I think they come from India originally, but you can buy, they look like little plastic teapots, they're about this big, and you pre-boil water. Do not just use tap water. If you use a Netti pot, please pre-boil your water or use distilled water. You must, because you have to kill everything that's in it. So basically you put warm water and a salt mixture in this Netti pot, and it sounds really gross. You pour it through your nose. So you do it over a sink, put the spout up one nostril, and you pour it through. And it's one of the most immediate reliefs for when I have any sort of sinus pressure. I have dust and pollen allergies. I have quite bad hay fever. I have a bunch of stuff. So we won't get into all of it, but I am sure that a lot of it's connected. And Netti pots are one of the things that if I feel like the pressure building, even if it ends up becoming a migraine, it feels like the immediate relief of just washing out your sinuses is worth it. So I can see a few people in the chat saying they like Netti pots. Highly recommend them. They're just one of the quickest things. And then I didn't go through this, actually. If it's too much to tell, we'll run out of time. But the things that really help me, if you can handle smells, peppermint oil. There's a company in Vancouver that does a really good roller version. So anywhere around your hairline, the back of your neck, around your temples, it will sting if it gets too close to your eyes. So apply sparingly. And there's some days I can't do it. The smell is just too intense, but peppermint, it makes everything feel cold. So do it all around the hairline, all over your back of your neck. You can get gel ice packs on Amazon that in the shape of eyes. So I have one of those in the fridge or the freezer at all times. And if I get a really bad migraine, then I put that on. And then the other thing that I tried once was, and it did work, and I don't know why I haven't tried it more. If you put your feet in really hot water, and then massage your temples, then that seems to help. It's something to do with pulling all the blood down to your feet. So it relieves the pressure elsewhere. And there's one more thing. Oh, and then, so it's only in the last couple of years, actually, I've started doing this. So with regards to meds, as soon as I get the first sign of a headache, that I think is a migraine headache, I take everything straight away. So I take acetaminophen or paracetamol with caffeine. I also take an NSAID. I have naproxen, which you'll need a prescription for, but ibuprofen is the same family. Do not take both of them, only take one NSAID. And then I take a triptan, and I used to take rizatriptan, and I'm now on amitriptan, and that's more effective for me. But to Mallory's point, you will have to experiment and see what works best for you. I hope that helps.
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you so much for sharing. Maybe a few words on what you tried and didn't work at all, or what you would definitely not recommend. Well, I know we're all different, but anyway.
Propranolol didn't do anything for me except make me feel dizzy every time I stood up. And it's one of those medications that you have to then flag anytime you're doing anything, because it's a blood pressure medication. And so for me, it's worth trying, because everything is worth trying because it might work for you. I feel like I should do more exercise, but I don't. I don't have a lot of time spare, so I don't want to prioritize it for things I don't want to do. So I do like, so I'll exercise when it's something I actually want to do, but I'm not really into it. But I do know it makes a big difference. And when I used to exercise, I felt better. I just don't have time for it. I don't think there's anything I can say I wish I hadn't tried it. There's one thing actually for if you are taking a contraceptive pill, talk to your doctor. I was taking a contraceptive pill for a long while, and in Canada, Vancouver, it's very difficult to get a family or GP doctor. So I was seeing lots of different walk-in clinic doctors, And suddenly one of them made the connection between taking a specific type of pill and having migraine with aura. And I've never seen a doctor's face go so white when she made that connection. And she almost stuttered over, oh my God, you have to stop taking that. And it was the same clinic I've been going to, and they were mortified that they missed it. She was like, you're at risk for a stroke, which is not something you want to hear in your late 20s. No, you never want to hear that, never want to hear it. But especially at that age, you're like, this is as far from something I thought could happen. So just words to the wise, if you're taking a contraceptive pill, there is a connection. It's a very small one, don't panic, but talk to your doctor ASAP, because there are some interactions with that. So that was something I really wish I'd found out sooner. But it's all good now, so yeah.
Thank you so much, Kat. Talking about exercise and sports, I just have one advice is avoid physical exertion. So do it moderately, because for many of us, exertion is a big risk of having symptoms. So be careful with this, and do not get dehydrated. So hydrate yourself a lot while doing exercise. Okay, so thank you so much. I see a lot of questions and comments. Anyway, if you want to ask questions directly to the panelist or to a specific panelist or later, we will just hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and write your question there. Our moderator will either answer or your question directly, or we will ask our panelists after we've heard about Narel's story. So Narel, I'm turning to you. Tell us about your story and your experience with reliefs.
Hi, sorry, is this better? I've changed.
It's much better.
Oh, good. Okay, I've changed. What do you call it? Technology. Lordy. I was expressing to Luke and Jenny before this conference that this must be the hardest conference to get speakers because, of course, we all have migraines. So, I, for one, it sort of became a good example because I, for one, couldn't pre-answer my questions to these guys. So I hope I make sense, because I've had COVID for 22 days and migraines. And I think Kat addressed this and Mallory a little bit as well, that I think the migraine community, more than anybody else in any other sickness I've ever dealt with, just keep going. We just keep going and we just, we suffer through it. So I've had migraines since I was 7. I actually did call them migraines then because mine are absolutely hereditary. My mum, my uncle, my auntie, and my son particularly have migraines that are very, very bad. And we sort of have been campaigning for our whole lives to the rest of the family. So I feel that my extended family, my cousins and various family members, all just go, oh God, that's what Narel has. Yeah, I get it. And so I feel like I've been a little tiny spokesman in my whole life about migraines. I'm 56, so oh my God, that means I've had migraines nearly 50 years. So the system has changed. I think that my mum, when I was at school, really advocated that if I said, am I muted again? Whoops. Oh, am I muted?
No, you're not.
Sorry.
We can hear you.
Oh,
we can hear
okay.
you well.
Sorry. Now I sound really like I'm 58 and old or something. But anyway, so I think my mum advocated that when I was at school, that if Narel felt sick, let her lie down. Or call my mom, or give me something dark to cover my eyes. And I mean, I don't know whether the dialogue at the time was what it was, but my mum knew she had migraines. I grew up knowing that my mum had to lie down. That's what it was called. But I now know as well that my mum absolutely like would, you know, trudge through Disneyland with a migraine, and because I've done it, you know, so it's what you do. So I think the greatest message I have about migraines is that when we're having a migraine, it's hell. It's just hell, and we think we're never going to survive, and we think we're going to die, and I go straight to brain cancer, stroke, tumor, kill me now, horrible. And I think the problem with that, except for the, you know, besides the pain, is that when we don't have a migraine, we think we're invincible. And all these years, every time I don't have a migraine, I think I'm never going to have one again, until it hits me, and then I've got a migraine. And I love what Kat said about be more gentle on ourselves, because excuse me, I still sorry, I still have issues taking my medication. I still think it's a weakness. I still have this dialogue in my head where I go, it's a weakness, you're a loser, why are you taking drugs again, why do you have to lie down? It's really, it's just a cycle that we all need to get out of. I don't know anyone, I have lots of friends, for example, with MS, horrible disease, but I don't know one of them that says, I'm really sorry, I have MS, I have to lie down and I need to take my medication. They just boldly say, you know what, having a bad day, I'll catch you all tomorrow. So I think that if the migraine community, if we could all band together and try and get to that point with doctors and neurologists and just everybody on the bloody planet that doesn't have migraines, I think we get a lot more help. So what I really suggest that has helped me in the last maybe 5 years is to get like my survival kit ready, which is what I call it. So I have ice packs in the freezer. I have them labeled so that partner, children, neighbor, anybody can go straight to the ice pack for me and get it. I think that I've been ridiculed for a lot of my life that I need air conditioning. Guess what? I need air conditioning. You know, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, you're in Singapore, it's hot everywhere, just, you don't need air conditioning. Yeah, I do. I need air conditioning. I've changed hotels that don't have air conditioning. I run air conditioning when it's 75 degrees out there. That's some days too hot for my headaches and migraines. Oh, that reminds me, it's not just a headache. It's if you are experiencing migraines, we don't just have a headache. Some other myths for me are it's got nothing to do with food. Nothing. I think my migraines are very related to stress. I don't know what age I'm going to get to where I can manage that. So that just keeps going. And I think that the other thing for me is sleep. And actually this leads me to jet lag. Oh my God, that's like the extreme, I don't know, extreme migraine situation. And I think that I can see Kat nodding as well. I'm sure you have to go home to England. And, you know, I have to fly from Denver, Colorado. Well, I don't have to. I have to fly from Colorado to Sydney, and that's a long way. And again, one thing I've identified as a trigger for me is that I absolutely positively have to fly business class. I need to lie down. I need to spread out. I need to be able to go to the lounge at an airport. If I'm stuck at an airport for hours and hours and hours, I need to be able to lie down. And those lounges now are really posh. They have showers, they have dark rooms, they have beds. And I tell my whole family and friends, I'd rather come every second year and fly business class than come every year and fly economy. Or coach, whatever part of the world you're in. So, and I think that leads to me again saying that, you know, we have to all stop apologizing for what we need. You know, I see disabled people get on a plane, for example, in a wheelchair, and everybody is fantastic. And I feel like seriously getting a wheelchair and going, yeah, I broke my leg, but I've really got a migraine, but they'll understand if I broke my leg. So yeah, it's again, we've just got to keep getting people through, getting people educated about this. I do want to address that living in Colorado, where I live exactly now in the mountains is about 10,000 feet. And I don't know what that is in meters, a lot. It's really high. And I've had a massive learning curve for all our Colorado friends online here about barometric pressure here, altitude, and dehydration. And in Colorado, you can be dehydrated if you don't drink this every 5 minutes. You know, it's the dehydration is absolutely horrible. So one thing that has helped me, which may help everybody even at sea level, is fluid IV drips. And wish me luck, because I'm trying to get them taken care of by health insurance in America, which everybody just roll their eyes because that's going to be a challenge. But fluid IV has been, it's extraordinarily expensive. But you know what? It's just been amazing for me. So another thing too, I see a lot of people debating the caffeine debate. I absolutely positively live by these little capsules called STOK, STOK. If I have a migraine coming on, I take 1 or 2 of them, throw in a bit of half and half, and it does release the pressure in my neck. I have every kind of migraine. I have auras, I have pain. In Colorado, I seem to be getting a lot of pain in the back of my neck, muscular pain, can't keep my head up, can't keep any focus. That's been really hard. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Another thing that I have found that is absolutely miraculous, amazing, has been Pilates. And Kat, you just got to get a membership. So, but Pilates has just, you know, it's incredible. I just do it. I don't even need to get onto it. Imitrex is the drug of my choice. That has been miraculous. Again, I need to take it immediately. I need to, in Colorado, I don't know if it's the same in the rest of the country, let alone the rest of the world. Imitrex, you get 9 pills at a time. And I have fought for
sumatriptan so that we, let's call it sumatriptan so that we don't advertise for a specific company.
Absolutely agree. Sumatriptan.
Okay.
And I'm not paying for the brand name either. The brand name is about $5 million
just
more.
in case. Now, it's also that in some countries it can be called Migraine, it can be called different name, while sumatriptan is everywhere.
Yes, I apologize. Sumatriptan,
no
absolutely. But you can only get 9, like literally 9 sumatriptan per whatever period of time. And I'm trying to explain to doctors, I need like 100 on call, please. And, you know, no one's going to overdose on sumatriptan. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know the generic name for Topamax. Is that generic? Is that?
Topiramate.
Okay.
Topiramate.
So, okay, maybe you'll put that in the chat.
Yes.
I found that horrible. I was, again, I'm in entertainment like Kat was talking about, and I was in meetings on that drug and found myself zero creativity. It killed my creativity. It caused apathy. It was so bad for me. And I'm saying that because I've shared that with so many people that have gone, oh my God, that's what's been wrong with me. I haven't been able to write my book in 2 years because I've been on that drug. what else can I say about, yeah, I just really want to talk about that, you know, or stress the, just flying business class and being in air conditioning and doing Pilates. And, you know, all these things are really, really expensive. But I also joke about, I've also driven 100 miles to have a drink with someone. So I will go 100 miles to try and not solve the migraines. They're not going away, unfortunately, but to lessen my stress with them. And look, don't get me wrong, I can do every single wonderful positive thing in a day and still get a migraine. So you know, it's but I don't want to be negative about it, because I think that again, the more of us that speak up about this, the more of us that tell our teams at work, the more people that have groups, just go to a group. That's why I love what you guys have done here, because honest to goodness, the first conference I was on, which is why I said I'd speak at this one, is that it's just to listen to 100 people have the same problem as me is so relieving. It's such a relief. It really is. I will finish with this fun fact that when I was pregnant, twice, I had the most horrendous stay in bed, morning sickness for the whole 9 months till I gave birth, but not one migraine. Not one. So that's why I know that for me, my migraines are absolutely hormonal, hereditary. You know, I only had 2 children. I wasn't going to be having 25 children to not have migraines, but I wish that there was a drug that they could give me that simulates that, and maybe I wouldn't have migraines. So, but listen, I think this is amazing to have a community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Narelle. Thanks for sharing your experience, and thanks for sharing your return experience on lifestyle and your own journey with medication. Thank you so much. So everyone, again, do not hesitate to ask your questions to our panelists in the Q&A section. Press the corresponding icon in the bottom left of your screen and ask your question there. So Francois joined us. So Francois is the founder of Migraine Buddy, based in Singapore with the team, but at the moment Francois is in Brittany, his home country in region of France. And maybe a word of introduction with your own experience with migraine in a few words, and also please let us know about, tell us about the reliefs used by the Migraine Buddy community and the scientific research on migraine reliefs with the app.
Yeah, with pleasure. So myself, I'm just it's not an evaluation, but I only have occasional migraines, other types of chronic pain. So I don't know what it is to have it every day. I have aura, and so most of what I know about migraine is actually from checking with talking with the community and checking the data, reading research papers, discussing with some of the specialists who are working with us. So today, first, thank you for sharing a lot of both what I see in the chat, what you've been sharing here. And as the subject is really about relief, I try to prepare a bit of data and sharing what we can see from what everybody has been kindly sharing by saying, yes, I'm okay to have data being shared for research. You may or may not know, but we've had already a first paper on relief be talked about at the American Headache Society, I think 2 years ago. And we have a new paper coming up. Myself, I've been working on trying to with the team or head of data improve the scale we have in the app. So the first thing I would ask you is, do you know the helpful, unhelpful scale we have for relief in migraine body? Yes, no, because sometimes I see that people never found it, and I'm searching for my phone. So let's
So I have
vote.
a few.
I have
a
no.
few no
Oh no!
here.
Oh la 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 la! That's many. So let's all open the app. If you're not watching this on your phone, we open the app. We go in a record, and I'm sure that I'm doing it like that. And if you go in, so the trick is that you first need to put either a relief or a drug. If you have not, it will not appear. So let's put a drug like sumatriptan. Okay, medication. And I put sumatriptan 3 milligram injection. Okay, so what you can see is at the bottom here, you have something called relief scale, which appears once you have selected one. So if you check this one, whoop, you will see the relief scale when you click on it with 4 colors. So the good one is green. Yes, you got it. So that's the one called helpful. What does it mean? It means that the drug did work as you expected. It doesn't mean that the drug is perfect, because if you take a sumatriptan or any of the triptans, you know what happens. Usually it knocks down the migraine, but you also have what? Side effects. Unless you tell me that you never have side effects with your triptan, and I say you're lucky. So that's the thing. So depending on the drug, you may, it's just saying it worked as well as possible. So we've been observing the data on that, and we've been checking 100 of the top most used drugs here, and I would like to share a little bit with you what we've observed. We've observed also the relief, the non-medical relief, but the drugs are easier to observe because they are also stronger, more, I would say, more violent also for our body. So let me share my screen and go into the paper. And you stop me if it gets too boring and it looks like a research paper, because this is a research paper. So the methodology here, we took 10 million attacks, which were just the rating, none of, and we took just the name of the drug, or if it was written Imitrex, we said Imitrex is sumatriptan, so it goes into sumatriptan and all of that. And so one thing for us, all of us, how many drugs do we take per attack? Many cases we will take just one, but some of us are taking 2, 3, 4, and sometimes 10 plus. And that's drugs, it's the number of molecule. 10 plus is really when we are keeping the record open for multi days. But that has some importance, because what happens is that, so we can see the distribution of outcome. So the good news is that for drugs, still 54% of the attacks, we see that it's helpful. Good. That's a good start. But here we've taken the most used ones. If we take a drug like celecoxib or some drugs which are used also like for prevention, when it's taken during the attack, usually there's not much impact. So now what is important to observe? So because this is something that we really fill in during the attack, usually most of us, we will record it we will record it during the first 4 hours, or just after 4 hours, or at the end of the day after 8 hours, because most of the attacks are starting relatively early in the day. Not all, but many. And so you can see that the top one, not really a surprise, that's the tryptophan. Depends today, we did not put it in here, but I will share a bit because this research paper was started before the depends were out. But we could find what was we have a first idea of where it's positioned, because we've already also published some papers, started working with the companies which are actually producing some of the new depends. So L-tryptophan, everybody knows. So you can go on Wikipedia and you will find which brand it is. So L-tryptophan, zolmitriptan, and sumatriptan. You can see here that's really the top group. And then after you have naratriptan, frovatriptan, rizatriptan, and almotriptan. Almotriptan, frovatriptan are not really pushed that much. It's really those that you will be given after some time, if those on the top are not working. Depending on the way we were doing the calculation, depending on the country, rizatriptan was sometimes higher in the methodology. Overall, if you have one working, what we were discussing with the doctors is try to stick to it, because one of the big challenge also that we see in the data is that we don't necessarily have good result with the first one we try. I'm sure many of you have experienced that. You start with sumatriptan because this is the oldest one, and then that doesn't really work. And then you got multiple samples, and then you try Zolmi, you try L-tryptophan, and L-tryptophan works. You stick to it, and the doctors actually ask you and tells you to stick to it. One thing to keep in mind, and on which we are working, is to help also in evaluating if it has the risk of not working anymore after some time. So I'm not watching the chat, I'm on a small screen, but raise your hand if you had a case where you take a triptan and after 1 year or more, that's not working anymore. You have to try something else because it's not working anymore. It's something that we've seen a lot in data. So if it happens to you, don't be too surprised. And you could have to go to another one and come back and it will work again. That's something that we see. Another thing that we see is that the efficacy of the drug can be significantly different when you take another drug together. So let's say sumatriptan plus naproxen. That's actually a combo which was sold until recently, which was called Treximet. And we've seen continuously Treximet be at the top. And if we see also that naproxen with the right dosage is the only OTC drug, over-the-counter drug, which is actually giving a far higher results for sumatriptan than sumatriptan alone or sumatriptan with other type of drugs. So that's the key point. Depends today, we see that they are a bit lower, but it's from the other research we've done, we suspect two things. Depends are slower to act than the triptans, and sometimes we can be unsure that they are working because the scale we have in the app can be somewhat helpful and helpful or don't know. And so we are thinking of ways of adjusting that, because today the depends have some qualities that you don't have with some of the other ones, which is that when we measure, we can see that cognition, the capacity to think and work the next day, tends to be higher with G-pens than with triptans, for example. And so maybe I will go to another representation here. So triptans are the top ones. Ergots, which are usually given when triptans cannot be given until recently. Nowadays, it would be more G-pens. Antiemetics, that will be for nausea and all of that. So don't expect the pain to go away if you take ondansetron or those kind of things. But that can be very, very useful because it's not just about the pain, we all know, and the really the nausea is one of the top problem that you face. By the way, do you know the worst symptom you can have? The symptom which has the biggest efficacy, which is reducing the most the efficacy of a drug. Can anybody guess? So we've done correlations and try to find when which symptom is actually really when it's present reducing the efficacy of drugs. It's a bit of a silly guess. You will see it's super obvious when I will give the answer. So I cannot see the screen. So Christophe, what are the top answers?
I guess Penny guessed here.
Hmm?
I guess Xavi guessed as well, probably vomiting, right?
Vomiting is the one having the biggest impact. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's totally, that's just a mechanical impact. But yeah, keep in mind that if you're vomiting, you should not, taking a pill will probably not have a big impact. The other thing which we found, which was very different from the clinical research for that, is nasal spray. You can be given nasal. And we realized that nasal is having the lowest efficacy for any of the drug compared to the pill or obviously for an injection. But that's not the case in clinical trials. The thing is that I don't know if you ever tried nasal, but myself, the last time I tried a nasal product, I found it very difficult to use. And what seems to happen is that if you're not standing it far enough, it falls back. Instead of going touching the mucus and everything, it falls back in the mouth. And then it's nothing more than a sort of weak tablet. So keep that in mind. Also, even within the same the same form, it can have an impact. We did not put THC here. So Mallory, do you know what THC is? In Singapore, we should not consume that.
Did someone say something?
Yes, I was saying THC. Do you know what THC is? In many countries, the doctor will not prescribe you that. You can smoke it, but it seems to be working quite well for pain. It's called cannabis also. Cannabis. So in the data, we also see THC, cannabis, which is working, which is reported as having a good outcome, higher than opioids. And I'm not recommending to use it. In many countries, it's still forbidden. We know that the impact on the long-term impact on the brain needs to be studied, but it seems to be working, and yeah, so we could see that. Then hydrocodone, oxycodone, codeine, tramadol. Those one that's names you should know. You can see that it's not that high. Hydrocodone seems to be working quite well, quite fast. Many patients are asking for it in the US, but be careful. It's what it's called an opioid. So here it's not a risk of rebound headache, it's a risk of not being able to stop it. Oxycodone, that's also called OxyContin. So that's what actually started the opioid epidemics in the US. We can see that in the US, those are reducing in prescription, but in some countries like the UK, it's still increasing continuously, or Australia. Codeine, that's one that you can have in many cough drugs, but it's also something that you can have together with acetaminophen, paracetamol in many cases. So be careful not to consume too much of it. And tramadol, I've always seen it as having the lowest reported outcome. This is synthetic morphine. I discussed also with some of our users who did not know that it was actually on opioid. So yeah, be careful. If the doctor tells you no, I won't give you that much, or the pharmacist tells you I won't give you that much, is because yeah, it's deadly. Yeah, those kind of stuff are very dangerous. So ketorolac, diclofenac, indomethacin, naproxen, and so on. That's what is called non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs. So that's the one. Most of them you will be able to find them in under names like Alev, Tylenol, Panadol, depending on the country. That's the normal, the most common thing that which is given to stop pain. In some cases, it's some of those like acetaminophen and so on, which will be packaged together, sometimes together combined, will be also about relief, fever relief. Here, in many countries, the reason why they don't give too much is because it can generate some organ failure if you take too much of it. In the UK, for example, you will be limited in number of ibuprofen you can get. But also because there's something which needs to be, which is a lot discussed, which is that if you take it every day, the risk is to get rebound headaches. A bit like with triptans, but triptan, the risk is higher. We've put Excedrin migraine. I'm sure many of you have used it. The reason why, yeah, you can see, is that acetaminophen is actually the same as Excedrin. Acetaminophen plus caffeine is Excedrin migraine in some way. So you can see that by combining the two, I'm not telling you to rush to your Starbucks and with your acetaminophen when there's no Excedrin migraine. It's still different, but yeah. When you have combinations, you can see that the efficacy, the perceived outcome, can be really higher. One of the reasons is that it's making it work a lot faster. Okay. So all of that, how does it compare to actually what is the most non-medical relief that we all use? Any guess? Who wants to guess what is the number one? And Christophe, let's see in the chat. What is the most used non-medical relief? I'm sure you will be disappointed. I prefer to say.
We have a lot of different answers. I also see that Kat needs to drop the webinar. So I would like to thank you very much, Kat. And for those who can still stay with us, we'll be answering the Q&A very soon. Thank you very much, Kat.
Yep.
So back to François' question. So what is the most used type of non-medical relief?
Yeah,
we have a lot of
drinking water. Is drinking water. Is the efficacy high? No. Let's be frank. It's important to avoid things from getting even worse. But it's not solving much, right? So that's it. But this is the most reported one. After we have sleep. Sleep is actually having a higher rebody.com. But one of the reasons, and that's why we need to analyze it a little bit better, is that sleep is also the same as waiting in many cases, right? It's also the same, it combined with waiting in a peaceful and dark room. So it's a sort of catch-all concept, which is more about trying to forget and wait. And if you combine sleep plus doing it after taking a drug or something, obviously, yes, it's combining and it's making it work all together. So yeah, and vomiting can make you can make you drinking can make you vomit. So yeah. So caffeine in some cases can make it worse, in some cases can help. So that's also something where we need to do a better analysis on our case before telling you, okay, let's go all for it, because it really depends on the people. In the same way that caffeine can be a trigger for some people, and one day without caffeine can also be a trigger for others, because we got used to it and all of that. So we continue to analyze, and yeah, we can see for some people, I see in the chat, it's helping. For others, it's exactly. So we have many things like that. When it's building a balance for all of us, and a big part of it is to get back to the normal balance. We need to keep in mind that the drugs are very strong. Drugs without side effects, that doesn't really exist, to be frank. Also, one of the reasons is if it has no side effects, probably in most of the cases, it will not even go through the capacity to show enough efficacy. So it's something to be really done with your doctor as a way to get back to normal. And the relief, the other relief is also a balance to be found. If something, and that's also something that we see from the data, if something has an effect, is very strong, even if it's not something prescribed by a doctor, it can be dangerous. So it's not because something did not go through clinical trials, is not expensive, is natural, that it's not dangerous potentially. So that's also something to be kept in mind. So I would suggest to really put things into stuff without side effects, which are mild and nice to the body, and stuff which are strong and needs to be evaluated with care. Okay.
Thank you very much, François.
That's it.
Thanks very much for sharing all the knowledge we gather from the migrant body community, and all the research we're running with doctors and scientists. Thanks to the insight we get from the community all over the world. That's great. We're going through more, and it's fantastic to see how the power of the community can help the research, and hopefully also drug developments or non-drug reliefs in the coming future. So we have a number of questions in the Q&A. We're going way longer than what I anticipated. So I'm not sure, Narelle and Mallory, you still have time? Or I see that
Mallory had to leave also.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Maybe let me go quickly through the questions that are related to the reliefs. I see questions about preventative. That's probably going to be our next, or if not the next, one of our next get-together sessions. So let me have a quick look at that.
Maybe the first question is COVID, vaccination on migraine. So that's something where we need to quantify. The problem is quite complex. There are reports of people for whom the vaccination generated. There are reports also for whom getting the COVID generated more migraines. So we don't know exactly what is happening. We may never know, but for now we are here to quantify.
Yep.
For example, I'm absolutely incapable of saying if there are more vaccination from the more migraines after COVID or more migraine after the vaccines.
I see a question about nausea increasing after as what seems to be a side effect of taking a triptan.
Yes, very, very common.
Okay. So I see a number of answers already from the community. Thank you so much for answering the open questions. What is your experience with the TENS machine on arm to block or reduce migraine pain? Farah asks.
Yeah. So from the data, TENS machine really depend on the machine, because you have tons of copycats which are just cheap things which are sending electricity and doesn't seem to do more than a placebo effect, and you have those which have been properly studied, like Cephaly and others, and seem to have a more documented and more consistent effect. It's in our data, it's around the same level as the opioids, a bit higher than the opioids, but it's a bit different also in the way it's working, because it's less fast and less violent and less side effects. But we can clearly see efficacy for some which are with consistent brands. For the other ones, which are not known, it's really impossible to predict. And I'm talking about TENS, not all the devices pushing electricity.
Okay, thank you, Francois. I see Jill asking a question about how to track triggers on the app. So I guess this is a question for Jenny. We can answer this next to the, maybe add a note to the video we're going to post after this this webinar. The next question is about, this is a very interesting one, and again, it's about the use of the app. When should we actually record the finish time of an attack after we've taken a triptan? So maybe I can give a bit of insight on this one. I think you should be consistent about this. Maybe asking your doctor about what is the most efficient way to work with him on this, or the community, or at least be consistent. The most
just be consistent.
The number one thing is be consistent.
Yeah,
François, maybe you want to add?
Yeah, I would say just be consistent. Consider that when you're back to normal, or when you don't feel handicapped anymore, this is ended. And be ready to explain and discuss with your doctor about that. But the most important is to be consistent, because there's no one-size-fits-all answer. And the question will be, okay, if we go for another treatment, what makes you feel okay faster with not much more side effects or risk? That will be the main question. So, and that's it. It will not have an impact really on the medical diagnosis, and it will not have an impact on insurance, because that would be about prophylactics.
Thank you, Francois. I see a question from Josie about research being done on migraines and THC or CBD use. I guess you've already answered this question.
Yeah, there is.
And then another one from Joan.
You skipped one.
Sorry.
Yeah, the nortriptyline on the graph.
Yes. So I'm not sure what nortriptyline is, but if you use it as prophylactic, it's normal you don't see it.
Yes, that's exactly that. So prophylactic usually nortriptyline, valproate sodium, all of those, they are really, really low in terms of helpfulness during a migraine. Why? Because it's not relieving your migraine. That's all. It's meant to prevent it. So showing it here would be misguiding because it would tell you, hey, it's not working. But no, it's to relieve from a migraine, it's not working. But for prevention, it can be considered that it's working. It has been proven in clinical research.
Okay, so we have more questions here. Is there a connection being made between trauma or messed up childhood and migraine?
They are.
I guess
not
there are.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh my God.
And,
they are, but they are not of high quality. So there's a bit of shortcuts which have been done around that. So be careful. If somebody tells you there is a link and so on, go and check really the research, because yeah, migraine can be more complex. It can be linked to trauma. We don't. I cannot say yes or no here, but yeah.
Yep. Another question on the adverse effects after COVID vaccination and having migraine attacks from Mariana. So there is a specific COVID vaccine and also how it could relate with Botox and other prophylactic. Probably we don't have enough data or history on this to have conducted research, unfortunately.
For which one? Oh, side effects, COVID and so on. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is difficult.
Yeah.
The thing is that everything related to COVID is quite complex, because even for the vaccine, they did not do an evaluation with a systematic PCR for everybody. So many of us who did not have the PCR, we may have had the COVID asymptomatic and then the COVID vaccine, and it's afterward. If we did not have it, it was not detected. It's very difficult to know exactly what happened. So it's really making the research on that field more complex.
And we have a question from Tanya about the vagus nerve simulator. Do we have any kind of feedback on this relief? Yeah.
Very, very. So I discussed with GammaCore, including the different CEO they had in the time. We proposed them to do some research. Very, very, very few users. So we don't have enough data on that one.
Okay, thank you. Last question from Karen about the side effects linked to serotonin on Ubrogepant. I have no idea about this, to be honest.
So we did not do ourselves a specific research on that. I'm actually checking if there is something. The thing is that serotonin can be impacted by many other things, right? And it's part of the mechanism that you have around depression, but also about pain. So if it was impacting the mechanism in one way or the other, it can be indirect. In the same way that when you take opioids, you can get constipated because it's blocking part of the pain mechanism. So I would be surprised if it had absolutely no impact, because those seem to be in the same perimeter. But I don't know to what point it has been It has been studied. It would be great if it had a positive impact, because to be frank, we can be so depressed when we're in pain that yeah, that's it.
Yep, thank you. We'll take a last question from Mandy.
Yeah, and by the way, triptans are acting on serotonin. Huh? So again, that's all over. So triptans are acting on serotonin really directly, while GPANs are acting on the CGRP channel. So it's having less direct impact on serotonin than the GPANs.
Yep. And yes, one last question from Mandy, who's asking if there are any good relief methods for allodynia symptom during an attack.
Yep. So that's a good question. So that's actually one of the things which is being studied with the anti-CGRPs. So allodynia, for everybody, it's okay if you don't know. This is pain when being touched. So, and it can be the hair. So if you have occipital neuralgia, others and nerves, you will have that. So it's one of the worst symptoms, non-internal pain symptoms that we can get. And so one of the observation is that it seems from the studies that anti-CGRPs and especially GPANs are working, giving better results on stopping the allodynia during the than the triptans. But after that, non-medical relief, it's very, I think it's better to try. Is it by numbing the nerves and going cold, ice pack and others? Maybe, probably better. I'm not a specialist. I would suggest to try. The other part is tell the other people around you, don't touch me. Don't touch me, don't touch my hair, don't approach me when I have that. When I have allodynia.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you to all our panelists, and thank you to all of you guys to have stayed until the end of this webinar. We will be sharing the video soon in our newsletter, and you'll be able to react on it, suggest new topics for the next get-together session. And once again, thank you so much to everyone and to our panelists for joining today, for giving your feedback, sharing your experience, and we will look forward to welcoming more of you very soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.
Thank you. Have a good night or a good day and a wonderful weekend.